The desert was silent, except for the wind that moved across the dunes like a whisper. The sun was setting, painting the sky in red and gold. Far away from the human outpost, a girl walked alone. Her boots pressed into the sand, leaving small footprints that would soon vanish under the wind. She was not supposed to be here. No one was. Everyone in the outpost knew the rule: stay away from the caves. A warning sign stood in front of them, painted in red letters. Danger. No one ignored it. Everyone feared what lived inside. They called it the beast. Some said it was born in the labs of another world. Some believed it was a weapon made by enemies of humanity. Others thought it was simply nature's mistake, a monster that should not exist. What they all agreed on was one thing: the beast killed. It was said to be huge, covered in blue fur with stripes of crimson red. It had horns like blades and teeth sharp enough to crush bone in seconds. The beast hated humans. Every soldier in the outpost had heard the same story. If you enter the cave, you never come back. And yet the girl kept walking. Her name was Ilara. She was young, too young to carry such courage, or perhaps it was not courage at all, but something else. She did not believe in monsters. She believed in stories, yes, but she also believed stories could be wrong. The soldiers on watch saw her from the tower. They shouted for her to stop, but the desert carried their voices away. One soldier cursed and grabbed his rifle. Another whispered, "She's gone! The beast will take her!" The girl did not stop. She stepped past the warning sign and entered the shadow of the cave. Inside, the air grew cooler. The sand turned to stone. The cave was wide, carved by time and wind. Light filtered in from the entrance, but deeper inside there was only darkness. Ilara's heart beat faster. She could hear her own breathing echo against the walls. She remembered the stories: claws scraping against the rock, a roar so loud it shook the ground, eyes that glowed in the dark. She took another step, then another. Behind her the soldiers waited, their weapons ready. None dared to follow her. They only watched. Deeper in the cave, something stirred. At first it was only a sound, a low growl that rolled through the air like distant thunder. The girl froze. The soldiers outside tensed, gripping their weapons tighter. Two glowing eyes opened. In the shadows, they were bright like coals in a fire. They blinked slowly, focusing on the small figure standing at the entrance of the cave. The beast was awake. It moved, its huge body shifting against the stone. Claws scraped against the rock. Dust fell from the ceiling. A deep breath filled the cave, followed by another growl. Ilara stood very still. She wanted to run, but her legs would not move. The stories were true. The beast was real. The soldiers outside whispered to one another, "It will kill her." "Should we shoot?" "No. If we fire, it will come for us all." The beast stepped forward. Light touched its fur, revealing the strange beauty of its form. Thick blue fur rippled across its body, striped with lines of red. Its horns curled upward, sharp and deadly. Its mouth opened, showing rows of teeth, long and white, shining in the dim light. It was taller than any man, heavier than any machine. It looked like power itself, shaped into muscle and bone. Ilara's chest tightened. This was the moment. The beast would strike. She would die, and her name would become another warning in the long list of warnings told at the outpost. But the beast did not strike. It only looked at her. The cave was silent again, except for the sound of its breathing. Slow, deep, steady. Ilara swallowed hard. She took a small step back, but then stopped. Something in the beast's eyes held her there. They were not only filled with rage. There was something else, something she did not expect. Curiosity. The beast tilted its head. Its ears twitched. It lowered itself slightly, not in attack, but in something that almost looked like caution. The soldiers outside were confused. "Why hasn't it killed her yet?" It's waiting. It's playing with her. Ilara took a slow breath. Her fear was strong, but stronger than fear was something else. Wonder. She had never seen anything like this. It was beautiful in a terrifying way. Another step, another growl. The sound was loud, but not as angry as she expected. More like a warning. Do not come closer. Ilara stopped. She lowered her head as if to show respect. The beast blinked again. It lowered itself even more, claws resting against the stone floor. Its eyes never left hers. The moment stretched. Seconds felt like hours. The soldiers outside could not believe what they were seeing. The beast had never shown mercy before. It had never paused. And yet, here it was, face to face with a human girl. And not attacking. One soldier whispered, "This is wrong. This is not how it's supposed to be." The beast let out a slow rumble, deep in its chest. Then, to the shock of all who watched, it turned its head slightly and yawned. The cave echoed with the sound. The beast's jaws opened wide, its teeth shining in the light, but it was not a roar. It was not a threat. It was something simple, something almost human. Tiredness. It lay down on the cold stone, its great body curling into itself. The glowing eyes blinked once more, heavy with sleep. Then they closed. The beast had returned to rest, and the girl was still alive. Outside the cave, the soldiers stared in silence. They had expected screams. They had expected blood, but what they saw instead was something no one could explain. The silence inside the cave was heavy. Ilara stood frozen, her heart racing so loud she feared the beast might hear it. The monster, this legendary killer of humans, was lying down, its glowing eyes now closed, as if it had simply grown tired of life itself. The soldiers outside whispered, trying to understand what had happened. Did it spare her? No. No. Maybe it's just waiting. Maybe it's playing with her. Then why isn't she dead already? None of them had an answer. Ilara slowly breathed in. Then, out. Every instinct screamed for her to run, to turn around, flee the cave, and never return. Yet her feet would not move. Something inside her told her to stay. She took one careful step forward. The sound of her boot on stone echoed like thunder. The beast's ear twitched, her chest tightened. Her hands trembled at her sides. For a moment, she thought it would leap up and end her life, but instead, the monster only shifted, curling itself tighter like a giant dog in its den. Ilara's eyes widened. The soldiers outside held their breath. She was standing within reach of death itself. The girl studied it quietly. Up close, the beast was not just terrifying, it was magnificent. Its fur shimmered faintly as though the blue held some hidden light beneath. The red stripes glowed faintly in the dim cave, like embers pressed into its skin. Its horns curved, upward, dangerous yet beautiful. Its breath was deep and steady, each exhale warm enough that she could feel it against her face. It smelled of earth and dust, with something sharper beneath, like burned metal. Ilara crouched down slowly, her knees shaking. She whispered, so soft the soldiers outside could not hear, "You don't want to hurt me, do you?" The beast did not answer. It only slept. She stared at it for what felt like forever. Something about its stillness gave her courage. Carefully, almost against her own will, she reached out a hand. Her fingers hovered over the thick blue fur, trembling. One touch could mean her death. But she lowered her hand anyway. Her fingertips brushed against its side. The beast growled. A low rumble rolled through its chest. Ilara pulled her hand back in shock. The soldiers outside raised their weapons, expecting the attack, but the beast did not rise. It only twitched its ear again, shifted slightly, and relaxed. Ilara's lips parted. She had touched it, The monster that was supposed to hate all humans had allowed her hand to rest on its body, even if just for a moment. Hours passed. The soldiers outside changed shifts, yet none dared to leave their post. Every eye remained fixed on the cave. They whispered rumors already spreading like wildfire. She touched it. She's still alive. Maybe the beast isn't what they told us it was. Inside, Elara sat on the stone floor, knees drawn to her chest. The beast lay beside her, its chest rising and falling with slow rhythm. She stared at its massive claws, each one long enough to pierce through her body. And yet, here she sat, unharmed. The question burned inside her. Why me? She remembered the stories told to children in the outpost, stories of soldiers who had entered the cave only to vanish, the bloodstains found at the edges, the roars that shook the air on stormy nights. This beast had ended them all without hesitation. So why did it let her live? She whispered again. Did they lie about you? Are you really a monster? The beast did not answer, but when she spoke, its ear twitched again. It was listening. Night fell outside the cave. The desert cooled and stars spread across the sky. The soldiers lit fires, but kept their weapons ready. No one dared to step inside. Elara, however, remained. There. She had lost all sense of time. The shadows grew longer, the silence deeper, but slowly she felt something she never thought she would feel here. Safe. Each time she thought fear would overwhelm her, she looked at the beast's slow breathing, at the way its body curled as if to shield itself. Somehow she no longer saw it as a killer. She saw it as lonely. The soldiers argued outside. We have to get her out. And who will go in? You? Then go. I won't. Then shut up and wait. One young soldier, barely older than Elara herself, spoke softly. What if the beast has chosen her? What if that's why it hasn't killed her? The others scoffed, but none could deny the truth. Something was happening inside that cave that no one could explain. Elara's eyes grew heavy with exhaustion. She had been sitting for hours, heart pounding the whole time. Slowly, she leaned, back against the cave wall. Her eyes drifted to the beast again. It stirred slightly, opening one glowing eye to look at her. Elara froze. For a long moment the two stared at each other, human and monster, predator and prey. Then, slowly, the beast lowered its head back down and closed its eye once more. The choice was made. It would not kill her tonight. When dawn came, the soldiers were certain she would stumble out of the cave, terrified, desperate to escape. But instead, when the morning light touched the desert sand, they saw something none of them could believe. Elara was still inside, not only alive, but sitting close, far too close, to the sleeping beast, her small form curled near its massive body. The beast was no longer her predator. It was her shelter. The desert sun rose high, painting the sky with sharp light. The soldiers outside the cave had not slept. None dared to close their eyes, because inside that cave a human girl had done the unthinkable. She had walked into death's home and lived. Now, morning light revealed a sight none of them were ready to see. The girl was still inside, sitting close to the beast. She leaned against the stone wall, her small form fragile compared to the massive creature curled beside her. The beast did not attack. Instead, it breathed slow and deep, asleep like a giant shadow at peace. The soldiers whispered, "This is wrong. She should be dead. Why is it letting her live?" They had no answers. Inside the cave, Elara opened her eyes slowly. Her body ached from sitting on the cold stone all night, but her mind was clear. She looked at the beast, its fur glowing faintly in the dim light. She remembered the fear, the pounding of her heart, the way her body had screamed for her to run. And yet she was still here, alive. The beast stirred. One golden eye slid open, glowing like fire in the shadows. Ilara froze. The soldiers outside raised their weapons, expecting the end at last. But the beast only looked at her. The silence stretched. Then, slowly, the monster shifted its weight. Its massive body uncurled. Ilara's breath caught in her throat, but instead of leaping, instead of tearing her apart, the beast did something no human had ever seen. It lowered its head to the ground, right beside her. Ilara blinked. Her fear shook like a flame in the wind, but another feeling rose within her, something even stronger. Trust. The beast was not showing its teeth. It was not showing its claws. It was resting with her beside it. The soldiers could not believe their eyes. One of them cursed under his breath. "It's pretending, it's waiting for the right moment." Another whispered, "No, no, look, it's protecting her." The young soldier who had spoken the night before leaned forward. His voice was filled with awe. "It has chosen her." The others scoffed, but none could deny what they were seeing. Hours passed. Ilara dared to move closer, testing the silence. Her small hand reached out once more. She touched the beast's fur, and this time it did not growl. The warmth of its body spread into her hand. The fur was thick, soft, alive with heat. The beast gave a low rumble, not of anger, but of something deeper, a sound that made her chest tighten. It was like the sound her family's old dog used to make when it curled beside her bed back on Earth. The beast was not warning her. It was content. By midday, the soldiers could no longer stay silent. A group of them moved closer. To the cave, their rifles raised. "We have to take her out," one said. "This is madness." "If we shoot it, we risk hitting her," another warned. "We can't just leave her there." The argument grew heated, but as they stepped closer, a sound rolled through the cave. The beast's eyes snapped open. It did not rise, it did not attack, but the growl that came from its chest was enough to shake the ground itself. The soldiers froze. Ilara looked at them, then back at the beast. She realized the truth before anyone else. It was not warning her. It was warning them. The soldiers lowered their rifles slowly, hearts pounding. The message was clear. The girl was under its protection. If they tried to take her, they would face the full fury of the beast. One soldier whispered, "Impossible! It's guarding her." The young soldier's voice shook as he said the words. Out loud, "The weapon has become her guardian." Inside, Ilara sat beside the beast again. She no longer feared its teeth, its claws, or its glowing eyes. She leaned back against its warm side. For the first time since stepping into the cave, she smiled. The beast shifted slightly, curling itself tighter around her. Its horns rested against the stone, its breathing steady and calm. It was no longer just the terror of the desert. It was hers, and outside, the soldiers stared in silence. Their world changed forever. The days that followed were unlike anything the soldiers had ever known. At first, they waited for the beast to change its mind, for it to finally do what it was designed to do. They expected screams, blood, and another tragic story to add to the long list of warnings about the cave. But the screams never came. Each morning, when the sun rose over the desert, they found the girl still alive. Not just alive, closer to the beast than before. She sat beside it as if it were her shadow. Sometimes she leaned against its great body, her head resting on its thick fur. Sometimes she walked around the cave, and the beast's glowing eyes followed her every step, never letting her out of its sight. The soldiers were terrified. And yet, beneath their fear, there was something else. Curiosity. Ilara herself no longer felt fear. At night, when the desert winds howled, the cave became warm with the beast's breath. Its massive body curved around her like a living wall. She had never known such strange comfort. She began to speak to it, her words soft and uncertain at first. "You're not a monster, are you?" she whispered one night. "You're lonely." The beast made no reply, but its ear twitched when she spoke. Sometimes it gave a low, deep rumble, not of anger but of quiet acknowledgement. Ilara began to give it names. Shadow, Guardian, Protector. Each time she spoke one aloud, she studied its reaction. The name that made it lift its head, the name that made its chest rumble like distant thunder, was Guardian. From that moment, she called it nothing else. Outside, the soldiers argued, "We can't let this continue. The beast is dangerous." Dangerous! It had 100 chances to kill her already. It's tricking her. It's waiting for us to drop our guard. And if it isn't, what then? What if it has changed? The young soldier who had always spoken with quiet conviction stood taller now. You don't see it? It has chosen her. That girl is safe because she's under its protection. It's no longer our enemy. It's her guardian. The others shook their heads, but none could deny the truth. On the third night, the desert sent a new threat. A pack of desert predators, four-legged creatures with long jaws and glowing eyes, crept toward the cave. They smelled human blood, or perhaps only sensed weakness. The soldiers raised their rifles, but before they could fire, the beast rose. It stepped out of the cave, its horns shining in the moonlight. Its roar shook the sand, echoing across the dunes. The predators froze. Then, one by one, they fled into the darkness, tails between their legs. The soldiers stood in awe. The beast returned to the cave where Ilara waited. She did not scream, did not hide. Instead, she reached out her small hand and placed it against its fur. "You saved me," she whispered. The beast lowered its head beside her, as though in answer. Days turned into a week. Ilara learned more about her guardian. She learned it liked the cool shade of the cave, but often lifted its head toward the sun at dawn. She learned it did not eat humans, but hunted desert animals at night, dragging them back to the cave to devour in silence. She learned that its eyes softened when she spoke, as if it understood her words. The soldiers watched from outside, their fear slowly turning to awe. One of them muttered, "We were told it was a weapon. We were told it was built only to kill." The young soldier shook his head. Maybe they lied, or maybe it chose differently. Maybe the first human to show it kindness changed everything. The others fell silent. One evening, a storm rolled across the desert. Lightning split the sky and thunder shook the sand. The soldiers scrambled to secure their camp, but inside the cave, Ilara was safe. The beast lay curled around her, its massive body shielding her from the wind and cold. She rested against it, her eyes half closed. For the first time in her life, she felt untouchable. The beast was no longer her fear. It was her shelter, her wall, her protector. But whispers spread through the outpost. Commanders demanded answers. Why had no one retrieved the girl? Why was the beast still alive? Why had no action been taken? The soldiers could not explain. How could they? How could they describe what they had seen? The impossible bond between a human girl and a monster bred for war. The commanders would never believe them. And yet the soldiers themselves could no longer deny it. The beast had chosen. It was not their weapon anymore. It was not their enemy. It was her guardian. The desert outpost was restless. News of the girl and the beast had spread far beyond the soldiers who had seen it with their own eyes. Rumors raced through the camp like fire. The beast spared her. It defends her. It sleeps at her side. At first no one believed it. The beast had always been a weapon, a story of terror whispered to children to keep them from wandering too far. But the soldiers' eyes had not lied. They had seen the impossible. The commanders did not accept it. They ordered the soldiers to prepare. The girl was to be removed, the beast destroyed. The soldiers hesitated. Some obeyed, some did not. But none of them were ready for what came next. On the 8th day, armored transports rolled into the desert. Heavy guns mounted on their roofs pointed toward the cave. Men in dark uniforms stepped out, their faces cold, their voices sharp. "This ends now," one of them said. The soldiers who had stood guard all week shifted uneasily. They had seen the truth with their own eyes. These newcomers had not. Inside the cave, Ilara did not know what was coming. She sat beside the beast, her hand pressed into its thick blue fur. She spoke softly, as she had learned to do. "You're not what they think you are. You're more than that. You're my guardian." The beast rumbled low in its chest. Its glowing eyes softened as they looked at her. Then the sound of engines cut through the desert air. Boots pounded on sand. Voices shouted. The beast's head lifted, ears twitching. Danger was coming. The first gunshot shattered the silence. A round struck the stone near the cave entrance, exploding dust into the air. Ilara screamed, covering her head. The beast rose, taller than the cave's entrance, horns scraping the ceiling. Its roar shook the ground. The soldiers outside froze, their weapons trembling. They had seen this power before. They remembered the stories of slaughter, of blood on the sand. But this time, the beast was not charging at them blindly. It was standing in front of Ilara, protecting her. The commanders shouted orders. "Fire! Bring it down!" The heavy guns lit the desert in flashes. Bullets ripped into the cave walls. The beast shielded Ilara with its massive body. Sparks flew where the rounds struck its horns. Its growls shook the stone, but it did not retreat. Ilara pressed her hands against its fur. "No, don't fight them. They don't understand." The beast turned its head slightly, just enough for her to see its glowing eyes. In that moment she understood. It would give its life before it allowed harm to come to her. Then something unexpected happened. The bullets slowed. The firing stopped. The soldiers who had guarded the cave all week stepped forward. They stood between the commanders and their guns. "No," the young soldier said firmly. His voice carried through the wind. "You don't understand. It's not our enemy. It chose her." The commanders snarled, but more voices rose. "We saw it. It had 100 chances to kill her. It saved her life. It is her guardian." The line of rifles wavered. Men who had once feared the beast more than death itself now stood against their own leaders to protect it. Ilara stepped into the light of the cave, the beast looming behind her. She raised her voice, trembling but strong. "You call it a weapon. You call it a monster. But you're wrong. It's not what you made it to be. It's what it chose to be." Her hand rested on the beast's fur. "It chose to protect." The commander sneered. "It's dangerous. It will turn on you." "That is what it was made for." Ilara shook her head. "No. Maybe you built it with hate. Maybe you bred it for war, but you forgot something." Her eyes shone with quiet fire. "Even monsters can choose." The desert fell silent. The soldiers lowered their rifles. The commanders shouted, but their voices no longer carried weight. The beast stood tall, its shadow cast across the sand. It was no longer the nightmare that haunted their stories. It was something new. That night the outpost changed forever. The soldiers did not whisper of a weapon anymore. They spoke of a guardian, a protector born from hate, but reborn through kindness. The girl slept in the cave once more, her head against the beast's warm side. Its breathing was steady, its eyes closed in peace. The danger signs remained at the cave entrance, but their meaning had changed. No longer a warning of death, now they were a reminder of the miracle that had taken place. What was once humanity's greatest fear had become its greatest protector. And so the legend spread. Not of a beast built to kill, not of a monster bred for war, but of the day a girl entered the cave of death and walked out with a guardian.